Shall we begin?
You aren't stuck in traffic. You are traffic.
Let's begin now.
Please get that bicycle-shaped object out of this shop. Oh no, dude. No mix and match here. Black bottoms or full-on kit. Pedal on, bro. Pedal on.
Let's begin now.
Oh, geez. Learn the hard way. Wider is better.
Today is Friday, December 21st, 2018. You just downloaded and are listening to Bike Shop CX. Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading, everyone. Music I'm using on today's show is Bijou by Philly Run. As always, you can check this tune out on the Free Music Archive where you can download it for free. And there will be a link in the show notes today so you can do just that. What are we talking about today? Of course, Mr. David Palin and I get together and we chat about what are you working on. We both got a couple of projects that we're working on with there. We chat a little bit about some tech and non-tech issues or things that we came across at U.S. Cyclocross Nationals. What an amazing week, and especially the weekend that culminated in that Sunday Mud Fest that was very mechanic heavy. So we talk a little bit about that. Then we get on to our tech topic for the show, which is Shimano SPD pedals. We go through the maintenance procedure for that as Shimano recommends it, and look at a few other things on those SPD pedals. And then, of course, it's your questions. We're always looking for more questions. Please send your questions to bikeshopshow@gmail.com, and we will get to them directly. This will probably be the last show we do for the year, of course, and we'll be getting on to one in January, as you can expect. But how soon that will be in the month in January, don't really know yet. It might take us a little while to get to that, but we should get our 2 shows in January. No problem. As always, this show is brought to you by Wide Angle Podium. If you are not a member of the Wide Angle Podium Network, why are you not? We have our new show, The Gravel-Lot, that has just joined us. It is amazing, and we are super happy about that. So get on over to wideanglepodium.com. Click on Become a Member, and become a member. We really, really appreciate it. It's what drives the network forward and keeps things going, and we can't say thank you enough to our current members. That is awesome, and if you're considering being a member, please do so. It'd be a great holiday gift to us. What an awesome thing that would be. So thanks. Get on over there, wideanglepodium.com. All right, I think that's enough of my yapping. Let's get on with it. The Bike Shop is open. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another edition of Bike Shop CX. With me, as always, is
Mr. David Palin.
What's going on, man? You at least have a voice.
Yeah, I am the voice, the remaining voice of Bike Shop CX.
It is what is today? It's the Friday after Nationals weekend, and I still have no voice.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You know, it's crazy. We drove down there together on Wednesday.
Right. Last Wednesday. Yeah. We didn't just drive down to see how things were afterwards 2 days ago.
Yeah, because we heard that there was some mud left and we wanted to clean it up, find that boot that you left in the pits or something. No, we drove down there on Wednesday. Thursday, I went off to St. Louis, see family.
Yeah.
Come back Friday. You're sick.
Oh, I know. I was sick.
He's like, you're all sick all day Thursday, Friday. I didn't think you were going to make the whole weekend.
I spent all day Thursday and Friday in the hotel because I foolishly, the Monday before we left, babysat my little nieces who were both sick.
Nice.
And then I, of course...
Try to get them to share their toys. They won't do that. But any viruses they have, they are quick to share.
They're all over that. So, but anyways... So yeah, I spent Thursday and Friday in the hotel room. I went to the course for maybe an hour on Thursday morning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys, I gotta go back. I can't stay because I was like, it was too cold. I wasn't like fever and chill and all that stuff, but it was just cold. And I'm like, it's cold and wet. I want to feel better
warm and dry
for the weekend.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's better to sacrifice these days to feel better, which worked because by Saturday morning I was way better. Still a little bit under the weather, but way better, and got to see all the racing on Saturday or some of it, and then everything on Sunday. So
and how cool it was. I love it when we get together at any of these events. We get together with our cyclocross family, if you will, and even now our new members of the family. And we're not spilling any beans here because it's out there all over the socials that the gravel lot is now part of our little wide-angle podium.
Yeah, I recorded episode, I think. I don't know if they're going to use it for bonus or a regular episode or what.
Oh, so if it's you, it's got to be a bonus.
We recorded on Saturday with them, and then I just recorded the other day with Cycle Systems Academy.
Nice.
That's what I was like, I put it out on Twitter that I recorded like 2 shows in the last week, and none of them were this one.
And yeah, I missed you, man. I missed you. It's hard.
So I don't know.
So we went to dinner, and I'm just going to throw this out there.
Yeah.
We talk about our cyclocross community, or as Bill calls it, cyclocross friends.
Yeah.
We went to dinner with Katie Macarelli herself, the one, the only, the cranky mommy. Katie Macarelli.
Correct.
Dan from Grimpeur Brothers.
Yeah. I mean, it's all-star cast already.
It is, right? John and Doug from
Right.
the gravel lot.
Yeah.
Over at my end of the table, we also had
Chris Mayhew.
Yeah. Whatever he's calling himself now, UB40 defense master. But from Chris Mayhew coaching.
Yeah.
Seated across from me was Ryan Gam from Red Kite Prayer.
Right.
With Rachel Rubin, his wife.
Yeah.
What an amazing group that we had together there.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was so much fun.
Yeah, that was really fun. So did that Saturday night, then the big racing Sunday. And as most people, if you've watched the feed or if you were there, I mean, the big challenge to the mechanics was obviously the mud, right?
There was some mud.
This was the overarching theme of the weekend was certainly the mud and the course conditions. And you know, one of the interesting things about this is to really be, if people didn't notice this or see this, to really be competitive on Sunday, you needed 3 bikes.
Yeah. Yep.
2 wasn't enough. You could not get through the washer in time, especially. So it was a little bit of a lopsided course, right? The pit wasn't perfectly in the center. So there was a shorter side and a longer side.
And the shorter side was also flatter and more pavement sand. So you were
faster.
Yeah,
on it.
you were faster on it and not gunking up the bike as much on that part of it.
So it was really difficult to get those bikes cleaned.
Yeah.
I was not in the pit at all, being sick, and I'm glad I didn't have any pit responsibilities because I would have been a wreck.
Yep.
But I did watch the pit for extended periods. And part of my little travel route when you're watching a race was always to watch them come through the pit.
Yep.
But yeah, you couldn't, on that short side, you couldn't get the bike ready in time.
It was difficult. I was in the pits for the men's single speed race.
Right.
170 people are starting the race.
That's just impossible. Luckily, on a single speed, it's not as vital. Right?
Yeah.
You certainly don't have clogged shifting, which is
right. But you're picking up stuff. You needed those bikes.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
Jake Wells.
Yeah,
he was pitting every half lap at the end.
Yeah.
Funny story.
Yeah.
His final coming through the pit.
Yeah.
Switches bikes, goes to remount, does not get all the way up onto the bike in one of those. A bike falls to the right, and you gotta go with it.
Yeah.
He didn't face plant, but he stumbled right there in front of me. He was at my feet. It's like, oops. I didn't do anything. I didn't trip him. It was on his own. He stumbled from the race lane into right to my feet. I looked over. I don't remember who was standing next to me. I think it was Fred Iverson. Just looked at me and said, "Well, that was awkward." So yeah,
that's good. So yeah, dealing the mud was the big thing. There was a lot of discussion from racers about the course quality. I think this is an interesting thing. I mean, I understand. I'm one of these guys too. It's cyclocross. You ride what is there.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a point to be made of maybe we need to look at, and this is not really a tech thing, so I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, but maybe we need to look at the fact that in some way we are giving the elite riders what's left of the course after everyone else is done with it.
Right. No, I would agree with that. And I know I've been on the socials about this as well. I will agree with you that sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
But I think that you plan for the usual, have a backup plan for the unusual. Mm-hmm. This was certainly an unusual race. And they did some things where they moved the course a little bit on that long climb to give some grass.
Jingle's done that before.
Yeah.
Other races have done that. Yeah.
But to say that, well, we want to have all the elites racing alone on a course that's fresh and beautiful.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I just think we should maybe think about not having the elites be the last thing on the course. What I would propose is let me just throw this idea past you, Mr. David Palin. You do juniors. You start with you basically do the schedule in the order that your career goes, right? You do juniors on, say, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That gives you 3 days for that. Elites race on Sunday. Masters starts Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and however many days you need to complete Masters.
Right.
The juniors are not as tough on the course as the Masters. They're just lighter. They don't weigh as much, right? You will still identify problems or anything that's not working right with as the way you anticipated it, which is what happens now. That's no big change. The juniors are then partially into the weekend, don't have to miss as much school, have a day to travel home if they want to, and vice versa for the Masters. They can travel there during the weekend and then instead of having to show up on a Wednesday, it's a Monday, so they had hopefully some time from work maybe with the weekend. Nothing is going to be perfect for everyone. We all understand
I agree,
that.
Yep.
And maybe start looking at it that way. And then the Masters race, on the course to finish it off. I don't know.
It is interesting because this is the same suggestion that Craig North had made while we were on our way down there before all of this, just based on we have friends that are old like we are,
right?
That were thinking about racing and then thinking about spectating that couldn't take a week off.
Yeah.
Perfect example, our friend Dan Hoffman, if he would have raced, he would have raced on Wednesday, and then he doesn't have the whole week off of work and his family responsibilities, so he would have had to leave after his race and not be able to see the weekend racing.
Many of the Masters leave on Friday or Saturday. Yeah. And don't even stay another day to watch the elites.
Right. So I think that makes sense, right?
I think it would work better for both groups. I think you'd get more people there for the elites. You'd get the Masters that come in on the weekend.
So you have the people that come Thursday to Sunday and the people that come Saturday to Wednesday or whatever the week turns out to be.
Exactly. And then I think you'd get more Masters in the Masters event because they could get there over the weekend and they wouldn't, maybe only miss a day or 2 days or whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm sure there's problems with that I haven't thought of or that that we haven't thought of, but I don't know. I just think there's things you can do. I think I don't agree with all the complaining and everything that I still am. This is cyclocross, right? You race what's in front of you.
It.
1 year it might be a muddy, sloppy mess and be an advantage to some riders. The next year it might be dry and fast and be an advantage to other riders. You get what you get. So I am totally down with that.
Yep.
I just think there might be something to the point that maybe we should protect have the elites not be on the what's left of the course at the end of 6,000 racers or whatever riding over it. I think there's a point there that maybe we should look at and don't have to do anything drastic, but maybe we should think about a little bit.
Chances are we're not going to solve this between the two of us talking about it now, but there needs to be a wider discussion. And I think part of that is at both ends of this, we have to remember that it is the juniors and the Masters that basically are the funding for the elites.
Exactly.
So if you create the situation where, well, now the juniors and the elites have destroyed that course, and now no Masters show up on Monday, Tuesday, you've lost a large chunk of funding.
Well, I don't think that will happen as much
nor do I, because
there's not as many elites as there are Masters. So they're
very
not
true.
going to tear it up.
And they tend to be better on the course, right? Because they're choosing better lines and they're not sliding across it as much.
Right.
And back to the original point of this was an outlier by all means.
Yeah, I see. I mean, in my opinion, you approach it as you plan for the fact that the course is going to deteriorate And if it doesn't, all the better. Right?
Exactly.
You don't.
That's my point. Yep.
So so there
Yep.
you go. And I don't know. I'm sure there's problems with it. People will be emailing us bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
BikeShopShow@gmail.com.
All the plethora of ways that we're wrong. But anyway, and maybe you don't need to change it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing out a suggestion. And
I'm just going to throw one last thing out there from the pits.
Yeah.
There were an awful lot of Crank Brothers pedals.
Well, that's good because we're going to be talking about Crank Brothers pedals. No, we're going to talk about SPDs today.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, we'll get on to that. But before we talk about any of that, Mr. Dave Penn, what are you drinking over there?
This
What do you got
is
in that mug.
This is my Grimpeur Bros full Schleck coffee that was a gift to me from the good Dr. Dirt, Dr. Tracy Berman. I came out to my car the other day after we did a trainer ride in the morning, and there in my little center console is this
a brand
aroma
new-
of amazement. Yeah, this is
Grimpeur
some
Brothers
good
and
coffee.
Dan, of course, at Nationals the whole time. Every morning I was there, which was limited this year.
No?
But yeah, running over there, getting some coffee from Dan every single morning. He was in the SRAM tent, passing that out, doing pour overs for, passing out to just anybody and doing pour overs, which is very labor intensive, right?
Indeed, yeah.
But makes the coffee better.
It does.
And
it was good
it was
coffee.
good. Oh, so good.
And it was the full Schleck he
It was
told
the
us.
full Schleck. At least one of the days. I don't know if
Yeah.
that was every day,
Yeah.
but at least one of the days it was the full Schleck. And maybe it was every day. I don't know.
And now...
But speaking of that,
Yeah.
there is a brand new wide-angle podium coffee from Grimpeur Brothers called...
Hello.
Cyclocross
Cyclocross
Friends. It is an espresso. And so, just so people know, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I'm right with this, but there's coffee beans are coffee beans, right? When a coffee maker, well, I just mean there's no difference between espresso beans and coffee.
correct.
Right?
Yes.
Espresso is a way to make coffee. It
To
is
brew
not
the
a
bean, yeah.
type of coffee, right?
Correct.
So, and when a coffee maker labels something espresso, it's just because they feel that way of making it is going to give it the best flavor and taste for that blend or that single roast.
Right.
It doesn't mean you can only use this for espresso.
No.
You can use anything. You can make espresso out of any coffee, right? If you want to.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you're getting beans, because if you have beans with espresso, again, Dan, send those emails to...
it's usually a finer grind.
It's a finer grind, right?
So you can grind it however you want.
Yeah.
So anyways, but it's kind of cool. It's a new packaging for the it doesn't have the same full Schleck label, of course. But yeah, go check it out. Hello, Cyclocross Friends. It's pretty cool. It's really cool, and you can support. It supports the same three shows: Slow Ride, Crosshairs Radio, and us.
That's Bike Shop CX.
Bike Shop CX. So get out there, get some of that, and the full Schleck. That's still available
It's
too.
still there.
It's not replacing that.
No.
So check out both, and we really appreciate you buying that. It's really good. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. David Palin. So the question I have for you.
Mm-hmm. You asked me a lot of questions already.
I know, but this is the really important one.
Okay.
What are you working on?
Oh,
we went through the whole
Scotty
thing
D,
last
man.
time about your bottom bracket, the Colnago bottom bracket, basically destroying itself.
Oh, the Colnago.
What are you on to now?
I am now the proud owner of a new old stock Raleigh RX 2.0.
Nice.
It is
Aluminum. Yep.
But it has the upgraded carbon fork.
Right.
So I wouldn't say mismatched per se. It is the Raleigh fork.
It looks similar.
Very
it's not
similar.
exactly the same, but it
will make this bike easier to identify.
Two slight shades of blue.
Yeah.
Right? Like different. Yeah.
Yep. Which now has a fork, a frame, and currently the bottom bearing of the headset.
Right. No, it has the whole headset. Right?
Well, I own the headset,
but
but
it's
right
not
now
on
the
the-
only thing attached are those three things.
Well, let me ask you this, though.
Go ahead.
You know what I'm going to ask you? What
No.
kind of brakes does that have?
None. It has zero brakes at this point. I knew you were going there.
What kind of brake mounts does that have?
You know, I have a very strong desire to stay at least one, if not two technologies behind current technology. So it has post mount. Right. Yes, it has
and
disc brakes.
You're going to put mechanicals on there, right? So you have post mount mechanical brakes. So
it will actually have hydros,
so you can stay behind the times.
Yes. I am pulled kicking and screaming into the late 1990s. No, we're going to go down this road, and we'll only go down there very quickly. I have never said that disc brakes are not a very functional, great way to go, and I have always said that my next bike would likely have disc brakes.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, I'm still a canty guy.
We still love cantilevers.
Yeah.
I mean, we love them.
There's that guy, maybe Meyerson. He did okay, didn't he?
Dan Chabanaugh.
He did okay.
Wins the Baby Masters on his
steel.
Richard Sachs.
On a steel bike.
Frame, cantilever brake, 1-inch stair tube. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Indeed.
So awesome that happened. I went and talked to Dan afterwards.
And you got a hat too, yeah?
Congratulations.
A cap,
he gave me one of those cool, those limited supply.
Yes. Rafa and Richard Sachs
cap.
I mean, talk about two things that are... Did it have like campy parts hanging on it, or like is it made of unicorn horn?
Campy accessories.
Yeah.
It came with the cap, yeah. Very cool. Dan is an awesome guy. I love that guy. I talked to him at DC this year too, and he's just fun to hang out. That is like... That team, I just like that team. They're like the little team that could, man.
And they're so unpretentious.
Yes. I mean, they're over there and just, they had their own little spot, and it was just awesome. I just love hanging out with those guys. So that was just really cool to see. I know he was very happy about that. Ed Nesson over there, too.
I didn't see Ed.
Yes, he was over there. So he gave me a donut. So there you go.
Man, you got a cap and a donut.
And a donut. Man, oh, man.
Katie Macarelli was there as well, and the whole feedback setup.
Yeah. So back to what we were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
What are
we're
you
working on.
So what are you doing with your frame? What point in this build are you at?
I'm still in the parts gathering. My co-worker from the Wide Angle Podium Show Bike Shop CX. Maybe you've heard of it.
Yeah.
The brainchild behind that, Scotty D, had some parts hanging around. So it's going to be primarily a SRAM Apex build, SRAM Rival build.
SRAM Rival, yeah.
The
single ring
challenge is
you don't know yet.
It's a 1x up front, and I don't have a shifter for the back end yet. And that will likely be force, as much as it drives at least our mechanic at Motor City Bicycle crazy that it'll be a mismatched front end.
God's sake.
But there's so much about it.
If it
there's
ever
so much about
matter,
this Frankenbike thing, right?
If it ever didn't matter more, it certainly doesn't matter on a single ring.
On a single ring,
You've
right?
got
Exactly.
one
There's
lever
no
that is
shifting.
just a brake.
All it does
Who
is...
cares if that's a rival?
Right.
And I agree with you. I would do the upgrade to the force for the rear shifter to get that smooth shifting. And the left is just a brake, so who cares if that's a rival?
Right. And I don't even use the brakes. It's
right.
I don't understand this brake concept yet, so we'll see. That'll be what it is. It is a press fit bearing in the bottom bracket. I will probably upgrade, I guess is the right word for that.
When you have 40,000 miles on this bike, the bottom bracket won't be able to spin out like that.
You're killing me, man. You're doing this just to taunt me. Yes. The idea is I will use an adapter, probably from Wheels Manufacturing, to go from press fit to GXP, so I can use my cork from
I had the single ring rival crank, so we have that as an option if we need to, but we're going to try and do the power meter.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to set that power meter up or the cork power crank as a single ring. We'll have to get the appropriate rings to do that.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So all that laid out there does make me want to ask you.
Okay. What
you drinking? Now we know what you're drinking. Full Schleck. What you working on?
So what I'm working on yesterday, I think I mentioned this a couple times. I was waiting for my Shimano, the new Shimano cyclocross rear derailleur, the RX Ultegra with the clutch. I finally got that yesterday. So
I've noticed it's raining here in southeastern Michigan, but before I left my house, I looked to to the west, and I saw like this glowing aura over Manchester. Now I know what it was.
So yeah, actually, the last thing I worked on is I got that Wednesday and put it on, and the thing is beautiful.
Yeah,
it's a work. I mean, basically, there was already an Ultegra derailleur on there anyway, so it wasn't a huge like changeover or anything. But yeah, the clutch is there. Getting used to that. It's got a longer cage, so you can run more teeth in the rear if you need to.
Yeah,
and tucks up nice under the cassette.
Right.
So it's a little bit lower profile, won't stick out as much when you do crash. And then of
when
course,
you do crash,
everybody crashes in cross, right?
Yeah.
And then the clutch, of course, you can feel the difference when you engage and disengage there's a switch on it which engages the clutch. They recommend that you turn the clutch off when you remove the rear wheel.
Sure.
So, but you can feel the difference. When you put the clutch on, just on the stand, you can like bounce it and try and like push on that lower pulley wheel, and it just when you got the clutch on, it doesn't want to go, which is nice.
That's the way it's supposed to work.
But it still shifts like butter, man. It's the typical awesome Shimano shifting that we're all used to, and it works great. So I got that installed, and that's ready. That's on one of my focuses. I have the two focuses, right? One's got all SRAM, one's got all Shimano. So that's now.
And
I have
they
this
dual
extra,
it out.
Now I have this extra Ultegra rear derailleur. I don't know what to do with. I got to figure. Maybe have to build a bike.
Yeah,
just because.
Maybe you should hang that from a Raleigh.
Well, you're going to have a SRAM shift. You could put a Shimano rear shifter on that.
Oh, that would freak everybody out. Yeah.
You want to talk about
KMC
really
chain?
Oh, that would be great. So that's what I'm working on. Hey, Mr. David Palin.
Yes, sir.
Our friend of the show, Sonny Gilbert.
She is more than just a friend of the show. She's like family. Yeah,
exactly. She had a pretty good weekend.
I don't know.
Or pretty good day.
It was
Sunday.
a big surprise to everybody. Nobody thought that she would do that. Nobody out there.
Wait a minute. Nobody except you listened to TDDTIE, somebody on that show said, "Oh, don't forget about Sonny Gilbert."
Who said that?
You, Mr. David Palin.
Mr. David Palin.
I've heard over and over again. Nobody would have predicted that. Well, guess what, friends? Mr. David Palin predicted it. So there you go.
Oh, you just have to know Sonny to know that bring the reins, I'll bring Sonny. And she is... That was perfect conditions for her, among all other things. Long legs, running background.
Yep.
All that plays into it.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of her biggest strengths in the whole thing, I think one of her strongest abilities is to maintain that attitude of, this is fun.
Right.
Bring it.
Right.
Whatever the world brings, I am Sonny.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that played largely into her victory or second place on Sunday.
I think she said she didn't even pre-ride an entire lap. She
She sessioned the areas that she had some
areas that
concerns
she was worried about. Yeah. And so, guys, this is the kind of stuff that does. When you do that, guess what that does to your mechanic? It really helps them out.
Yeah.
You're thinking, okay, this is about a lot of things, right?
Yep.
If I do it this way, I can really help the overall situation that I'm in.
Yeah.
Because it takes more than just one person to do well in a cyclocross race. Everybody,
and that's another thing
we do
where
this show,
yep.
right?
Sonny was the first to say it's a Sonny and Dougie Fresh.
Exactly.
They're right. Dougie Fresh CX.
Exactly.
Doug had that thing dialed.
I mean, when she got second and came in, the first person I hugged was Doug. she was over there hugging other people.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm going to hug Doug, and he's like, he was looking for someone to give a hug to.
And Doug is someone that we can reach around and hug, right? Sonny, my arms aren't that long.
So, but if people noticed what Sonny's number that she was wearing, this is why I brought this up. The number that Sonny was wearing, you could not read because of the mud. It was covered in mud. And what was holding that number with all that weight on to Sonny Gilbert?
Her sunny disposition. No, it was TNR tape.
TNR tape. That number, if there was ever a test of whether or not TNR tape was effective, it was the conditions you had on Sunday at U.S. Nationals this year.
There's two things, right? That one and what else?
What? The mud and
The rain, the crashing, and
nobody didn't go down right on that day. I don't think. I mean,
I don't know if Katie went down
there
or
might
not.
have been some.
But
Katie, yeah, probably didn't go down.
Yeah.
But the chances are, you're going to go down, right? Everybody's well. Sonny went down.
Actually, truth is, Sonny did go down, and Katie did go down because I talked to her afterwards. They went down together.
Oh,
She said she saw a blue sleeve coming her way in her periphery. They crashed, and she didn't know. And then she looked up, and it was her and Katie Compton that went down.
Yeah.
So,
So there you go.
check me if I'm wrong on that. Send all your hate mail to bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
So Sonny is a huge ambassador for the TNR tape, which is a sponsor of this show. Like I said, you could not have tested that stuff more than she did on Sunday.
Right.
Second place at U.S. Nationals in the elite women's race with a number coated in mud, weighing probably 10 pounds. No, I'm exaggerating, but full of mud, stayed on the whole time. And she, at the end of the race, she did what she's been doing all year, her video of just peeling that thing right off. And there was a big clean spot on her skin suit where that number had been affixed. So amazing stuff. We definitely TNR tape. If you're interested, go to tnrtape.com. Check it out. Get some for yourself. You won't be disappointed.
No, you won't.
It really works.
It
So there
works
you go.
great. I'm looking right now to remember which team it was. It was a team out of New Jersey or Pennsylvania, one of their junior programs out there that attached the test number. You know the test numbers you get?
Yeah.
When you get TNR tape?
Uh-huh.
They took the test number, put one on the back of their trailer and one on the side of their trailer,
Yeah.
and drove from the East Coast
To
through the
Louisville.
weather
Yeah.
to Louisville,
Yeah.
then turned around and went home,
Yep.
and those numbers stayed on.
Stayed on.
And I'm sure they maybe went to 65. I'm sure they didn't speed at all. But if you're going to be
Certainly
attaining those
faster
speeds,
than you would ride on
yeah,
a cyclocross
exactly,
course,
yeah.
right?
Maybe even your road racers could use it at that speed.
Well, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
a great testament.
That is a testament right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, tnrtape.com. Get over there, check it out. We really appreciate it. And like
Tell
we say,
Aaron we
Mr.
sent you.
Tell Aaron we sent you. And like we say, Mr. David Palin, who should people support?
Support the people that support our sport.
Exactly.
Hashtag.
If you're avoiding having to throw away your skin suit or jersey because you're not punching holes in it with safety pins, you're doing something that's good for the environment, but you're still using an adhesive. How do the guys at TNR Tape handle the use of their adhesive?
It's probably one of the more environmentally friendly adhesives out there. It's a solventless adhesive system. So when you make these adhesives, normally they mix like an acrylic adhesive, which is what we use, with like a bunch of acetone and a bunch of solvents. They blend it all together, and then they pour that mixture onto a sheet and let it evaporate to leave behind the sticky adhesive. We use a solventless process for this, so we don't have that.
Check out TNR Tape at tnrtape.com. Try it, and you'll get stuck on it.
So let's move on to our tech topic for the day. Are you ready for this?
Tech of the day.
What did we do on the last show? I can't remember.
We talked about a pedal system.
Oh, that's
I don't remember
right.
which pedal system it was.
There's some other pedal system besides Shimano. I can't remember what it is.
Oh,
but-
yeah. Time.
Oh, yeah.
Time
no.
Attack.
No, it wasn't time.
Is it Time Attack or Time Attack?
Hey, everybody, I know. We'll have to ask.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Okay,
right?
one last question.
Yeah.
Is it Louisville, or Drewville? Because now I think it's going to be called
Drewville.
as in Drew Dizzle
Drew
Dillman.
Dizzle Dillman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
He
He got the key to the city, I
he had
hear.
a decent day.
Yeah.
No.
No, not yet. Not yet. He got the key to the cyclocross park, though.
I mean, we could talk about the racing because it was awesome.
It was.
And it was a good day for former cyclocross network riders.
Well, there was that young kid from Michigan.
Let me just say the names. We won't expand beyond this.
Okay.
So
Little.
we've already
I'll start with Little.
Well, no, we've already mentioned Drew Dillman. We'll start
Right.
there.
Okay.
So that's one.
Yep.
Fourth place in the men's elite race.
Yep.
There was this other kid named Spencer Petrov
I think I've heard that
on
name.
that team.
Yeah.
I think he won a jersey in the U23.
He did. I think one of those front-winning jerseys.
Yeah, one of
too.
those stripy jerseys.
Yeah.
And then there's stars on it too, I think.
And
then,
bars.
And then in the elite juniors, there was another kid on our team named Alex Morton.
Little Alex Morton.
Alex Morton, who's not little anymore.
At all.
Who, basically won
that too.
They gave him that same jersey for some reason. I don't know.
He got his own.
He got his own. Right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Going
And
into
poor
that,
JB Hancock, he's no longer even the former pride of Michigan now.
there is a new pride.
It's
of
like all
Michigan
about the pride of Michigan cyclocross. Sorry, JB, we
Alex
love you
Morton.
still.
But here's something I don't understand is if you watch the replay,
Yeah.
why would anybody who is up on junior U.S. cyclocross
Mm-hmm.
say that Alex was an underdog?
We had him. We knew.
Last year, Alex and Magnus raced 8 times. Alex won 7 of the 8.
That's a
This
pretty good
year-
record.
This year,
Yeah.
going into nationals, they raced 8 times.
Yeah.
And it was a 4-4 split.
So that kind
And
of
now
still
it is.
puts
Now they've
Alex
raced 9
in the
times,
lead.
and it's a 5-4 with the nod to Alex Morton. So I don't understand that commentary at all. I'm just going to leave it at that, Mr. David Pellin. Silence.
Yeah.
So,
we'll leave it
anyways,
at that.
all right.
So tweet that hate mail to
bikeshopshow@gmail.com. So, all right. Today, as I've put out on social media, I think you put it out too, or retweeted or something. We're going to talk about SPD, the SPD maintenance procedures.
Oh, they're so much better than
You don't have to. You don't ever have to do anything to these.
no.
They
Then
never
throw them
fail,
away.
ever.
Yeah.
Except for the friend of ours who was just in the basement when we were looking at their wheel stuff, and their Shimano pedal is rattling all over the place,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Except for those, you don't
Yeah.
have to maintain
No.
them. So, but all right, there's
Okay,
two.
Bike Shop CX viewers, he's red in the face now. You've done it. You've upset Scotty D.
I am not.
Take some more full schleck. Take a breath.
That'll calm me down.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but there's two. You know, when you're looking at your SPDs, I love these. But I mean, the thing is, man, when you hold these, they're just rock solid, man.
Yeah.
I love these pedals. But
What? You like those?
The two basic forms that we're going to talk about. Shimano makes a ton of different pedals, and there's slightly different maintenance procedures based on which Shimano pedal you have. Right now, I'm going to look at the two main forms that would be used in a cyclocross race. Right, you've got the more entry level. I forget what this one is called. The Shimano
M540, M520.
I forget. Yeah,
It's either the 540 or the 520.
Yeah. And that's the easiest way to tell the difference between those and an XT or an XTR is the spindle shaft, right? On the entry level ones, you have the thicker, wider spindle that goes down, and you have that funky looking nut at the end, right above the flats
That
where
funky nut.
where you would use the pedal wrench.
Yeah.
Right. You got that kind of notched little. It's a nut. It's technically a nut,
Yep.
but it's got like notches in it rather than flats, not a hex nut
Right.
that you would put a wrench on. The XTs and the XTRs, and maybe some of the other ones too. I don't know. They just have a
traditional
six-sided nut,
yeah.
right, with a nice machined spindle that is, I'm telling you, man, that thing is rock solid. You got to say that spindle on the Shimano XTs and XTRs is awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. So those are the two main differences, and that's the way the differences, and that's the way that you can tell them apart easiest, I think. So advantages of the Shimano pedals. One of the things is adjustable tension. Boom. Right
Yep.
there. I mean, that's big. That's huge. Adjustable tension.
That's the release tension.
The release tension, right,
Yep.
that you use to get in and out of the thing. While other pedal manufacturers choose to have slightly different, with the way you put your cleats on, you can have different release angles, right? Shimano just has I shouldn't say just. Shimano has, maybe what's better is an adjustable tension that affects the force it takes to get in and out of the pedal. So it's really nice. If you have someone new to clipless, you can start them at a really low tension, really easy to get out as you get better. But the problem is at a low tension, your foot's more likely to come out on by accident, right? But that's for beginners, that's fine. And then as they get better and more comfortable, you can tighten up that tension, making it, tighter and tighter until you get it where you want it. So that's a really cool thing with the Shimano pedals. The other thing, some people like the front part of the pedal where the cleat engages in the front and then clicks in is stable. It's solid. It does not move.
Right.
So some people prefer that when they clip in. They feel that solid engagement of the front, and then as they push the pressure on, they click in, and away they go.
In the back.
Yeah, right. They click in on the back of the cleat, and that's what actually where the spring is that actually moves. So to some people, that's a big deal, and that's an advantage.
And we've talked about the attack pedals. We've talked about SPDs. We've talked about Crank Brothers. One of the pedals we spoke about in a previous show, we didn't speak about while we're talking about the rebuilding, refurbishing, is the Speed Play pedals, the scissors, which are the opposite of that.
Right. That spring is in
the spring
front.
is in the front.
And you had some problems with that,
I did indeed.
Right?
It took me a little bit of getting used to, because when you stand, for instance, in a cyclocross race, and you stand and kind of put a little bit of any downward toe pressure tends to release those pedals.
Disengaging. Yeah. So,
yeah,
Shimano does that the opposite way. And like I said, a lot of people really like that. So, all right, to get these things apart, if you notice on the entry level pedals that they make, you're going to need a special tool. All right, it's the. Are you ready, Mr. David?
I'm
Cullen?
listening. It's plastic. It's gray. It is the
TL-PD40. It looks like a tiny little. It's a little plastic round thing. It's square on one side and round on the other, and it's easy to identify because you see right away
that
the notches. Yeah, the notches that are going to fit on that weird, funky notched nut that I was talking about earlier. On the opposite side, it's four-sided, so it fits into the vise, which is how you want to use it. Mm-hmm. Plop it into your bench vise, and now you can set the pedal in the top of it, and you have the pedal sticking straight up, making it very easy to service. Right?
Right.
Now, this tool is very inexpensive. It's like $3, $4, $5.
Do not use a pair of channel locks or try to put a rag over the pedal and jam this thing into the
so
vise.
That's what I'm getting to. Don't just try and grab the end of this with the vise or with the soft jaw. You think, I got soft jaws on the vise, it'll be okay. It won't. What will happen is this will slip, and you'll screw up these notches in the pedal, and sometimes you can screw them up to the point where now you can't get them in the tool either.
And then
now you got all kinds
disposable.
of problems. Right. So get this little inexpensive tool. Just toss it in your box and just have it with you. Put it in the vise. You put the pedal in, and then you just basically unscrew. It's slightly different depending on which pedal you have, which direction but it's marked on the tool. Look, on the tool it says right, loose this way, left, loose this way. Very cool.
Pretty straightforward.
So if you know which pedal you got, how do you know which pedal you have, Mr. David Cullen?
It says right and left on the spindle usually. It'll depend on which model you're looking at. Some of them have them on the end.
If you have a pedal with no markings that you don't have any idea, and you don't have a bike, if you look straight on at the threads of the thread into the
look
crank
at the
arm,
ramp.
If the threads ramp up to the right, it's a right pedal. If the threads ramp up to the left, it's a left pedal. So it's that simple.
Yes, and for those that don't know, and most of our viewers know, but for those that don't know, they are not threaded the same.
Correct. What do you mean?
They're reverse threaded.
Oh, yeah.
On the
that's why
left side.
That's why one ramps to the left and one ramps to the right.
That's my point. Sometimes you need to say it
in
twice
a different way.
in a different way to be clear.
For those people at the back of the room who aren't paying attention.
They pay attention. They're just not paying attention to you.
So anyways, you got that. You put that on. You basically just unscrew the body. You keep going. It doesn't loosen right away like a typical bolt or nut that you might be used to, right? It takes a while. These things are on there really good. They've got Loctite, the Loctite that's holding them in there, so and that's all for a purpose so that it doesn't just unscrew a little bit and then come off, right? You will notice it way before it falls off that something is not right, right? Because that thing would be rattling all over there. So unscrew it all the way. When you get the body off, you'll be presented with the spindle. And on that spindle it's basically like everything Shimano, which I love. And I agree with their philosophy on this. Cup and cone bearings are still overall the way to go. They, at angles, sealed bearings are great when you're going straight, right? But as soon as you start angling them, they drop in their efficiency. And Shimano feels, I've seen this all their stuff, that cup and cone still give the greatest efficiency over all those angles that you might put something
Right.
at.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So the one cone is the spindle itself, and the bearings inside this thing are tiny. Do not take those off unless you see one that is broken,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or you see one that is missing, or you see a part that is broken. Just leave them there. They are fine, unless you have some reason to suspect otherwise.
Yeah, and if you are going to take them, or even as you're taking things apart, a magnetic parts holder is a good
work
thing to be
over-
under you.
Work over that dish.
Yeah, or a towel or something that the
Something.
part's not going to
'Cause
hit
these
the bench
bearings
and bounce.
are tiny.
Yeah.
Very tiny. So there's one set of them that ride on the cone that is the spindle. Then there's a sleeve. Then there's another set of those bearings. And then there is an actual cone threaded onto the spindle
Right.
at the top. So we're at the top of the spindle now. And there's a cone. So we've got the cone that is the spindle, bearings, a sleeve that fits over it that has the cup, right?
Correct.
And then there's a cup on the other end of that sleeve with bearings in it. Mm-hmm. And then the cone that fits over that. Just like a hub. It's exactly like a hub.
It is a hub.
It's just like a wheel hub.
Yep.
Right. So, and
It's
then
a spindle hub.
And then the cone that fits over that. And on top of that is, of course, a lock nut, right? To keep everything, once you get it adjusted, it's in place.
Right.
If you do have some motion in that cup and cone bearing system, this is when you would tighten that, okay? The best way to tighten that... Okay, so, well, before I say that, the only difference between the entry-level pedal that we mentioned that we're using the tool with
Yes.
and the XT is with the XT, what you're going to want to do is put it in the soft jaw, right? The Park, the soft jaw thing that Park makes.
Probably the
hub,
SJ1.2.
the hub vise is great for this, right?
Yep.
The hub vise that they make has this diameter in it for the pedal. So you put that in there, tighten that down, hold that, and then you take your 17 millimeter wrench and put it on the nut, which is basically what you're doing with the plastic tool.
Yep.
And you hold the nut with the wrench and then unscrew the body.
Yeah.
Right? And that does the same thing. Let's see if I can even get this one. I have one right here that I'm going to try and do. I can't.
Yeah.
It's too tight. and I
So
don't
with the
have a mic.
XTs and the XTRs, I think you can use the soft jaw.
Yes.
You can also
but that's
put
not
a
holding. That's
six,
not
no,
holding.
it's
where
holding
you-
it in place.
Right. If you just use that and spin, it'll just spin.
Right.
That's
Right.
not what, that doesn't do you any
Right.
good. You got to have that in the soft jaw to hold it, and then the wrench holds the nut, which then unscrews from the body.
Right.
Yeah. So you have that lock nut at the top, right, with the cone, and the cone is a 10 millimeter, and the lock nut is a 7 millimeter. Now, Shimano makes two tools to do all their to do these two. I believe you only need one of the two tools. But if you wanted to do, if you were a shop or something, you were servicing all Shimano pedals, or you're going to do a mobile shop and you want to be servicing all the Shimano pedals, and you want those tools, then you need them both. The downside,
Yes.
shop cost for the tools
We don't talk about shop
is
costs
like-
anymore. It's a lot of money.
is like $40
Yeah.
each.
Yeah.
Each. So that's a lot. The good news,
Good news.
you don't have to have those tools.
Oh, there you go. Shimano sales.
They do make the job a little bit easier, but they are not required.
Right.
So you need a 10 and a 7.
Yeah.
Right. You can take what I recommend people use. If you Park makes the little double open end wrench set. It's an 8-10 and a 9-11. Mm-hmm. It is the CBW1 and the CBW4. These are two wrenches. I have many sets of these. They are not expensive. Mm-hmm. These are like the wrenches to put in your shop apron and just leave them there.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. How many times do you need an 8, 9, 10, and 11? A lot when you're working on a bike. So if you just have a quick and easy something that you need, I keep these in my shop apron all the time. I just keep them on the top of the bench here because I'm using them all the time. But the thing about them is they are much thinner than just the regular Park
Blue-handled, yeah.
the blue-handed,
Yeah.
right. So what that allows you to do is if you use that 10, the 10 can hold the cone at the top of the pedal spindle, and then you can still get the regular 7 on the lock nut. So you can back off the lock nut, put a little bit of pressure on the 10 to tighten that cone up a little bit if you're getting slop and wobble in there, and then hold it with the 10 and retighten it with the 7 to lock that down where you want
Good time
it.
to put a little grease in there too.
Well, that's the next step.
Oh,
so you get that where you want it and adjusted, and then before you put it back together, if everything, you don't have to only do this because the pedal is loose, right? If you have not serviced your pedals and they're 3, 4, 5 years old, you can still take them apart. Say the cones are fine. Still, Shimano still wants you to take that apart, and now, like you said, you want to grease that entire spindle. Thin layer of grease all the way up. And this is how you're greasing the bearings, right? This is why you don't have to take the bearings apart to grease them.
It's not about packing them at this point.
Right. They are slightly exposed. So you can take your grease brush and actually get some grease down on both sides into those bearings, and they are fine. So you get the cone where you want it, tighten the lock nut, grease the spindle, and then just thread the body back on, and boom, Bob's your uncle. You're done. Very
you knew
cool.
about my Uncle Bob.
So that's the first service part of the Shimano SPD pedals. The next thing I want to mention, though, is that front part that we talked about that is stable and doesn't have the spring to it.
Yeah,
right. Those can occasionally. It's very tough, very strong, and I've never had one bend, but I've seen people that have hit stuff or done something, gone down, crashed, and bent or cracked that front stabilizer part.
In which case, you will not be able to get your cleat back in there.
Sure, it can definitely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably going to result in you not being able to clip in. So, the good news is, those are replaceable, right?
Yeah.
You see there's three screws on the top of that.
I see those.
The best way to do it is take your Park soft jaw, put it in the vise sideways, right? And clamp down on the spindle like that. Then take your 17 wrench so you can hold it still.
And now the pedal won't spin.
Right. Back off your tension as far as it'll go.
Okay.
Say I'm going to work on, you got to do this twice, once for each side. Right?
Well, and usually the case only one side will be bent.
If only one side is bent. So hold that so it doesn't spin. Back off your tension all the way so that there's no tension left.
Yeah.
And with one hand, you can actually hold both this wrench and the little screwdriver that you're going to put in here. And you have to take this pressure off the back spring. Right. So using your small screwdriver, you hold that in there along with the wrench, and you can hold those both with one hand. It will pull back on the spring. And now, because you see, this spring mechanism puts pressure on the back of this plate here. So if you don't do that, you've got that pressure on there, on that. Right, so you just release that. Then all three of these screws come off very easily. You can, without even releasing the spring, you just hold it, you take the 3 screws off, you remove the bent plate, you put the new one on, little Loctite on your screws maybe, and put your 3 screws back in when you get them up to torque spec, then you can just release that pressure.
Another good time to check those screws, because in that part of the pedal they may start to get stripped.
Absolutely.
The Phillips head there can get stripped, so now's the time to replace them, not after you will not be able to get them out next time.
Right. If those screws are worn, definitely replace those two with the Shimano parts.
And again, just for the sake of repetition and safety, make sure you take the pressure off of the pedal, so back out the pressure, and then pull the backing back a little bit so we're not shooting anybody's eye out.
Exactly. Very simple process, and it saves, obviously, and those are not expensive. That front part is not an expensive piece to get, and you're basically saving your pedals if that's all it is. So very simple thing to do. That and the little maintenance procedure that we just mentioned, and off you go. You're ready to go with your Shimano pedals. You do that, and these things will last forever.
That's what makes them so much better than everything else.
They are awesome pedals. I really, really like them. So, all right, Mr. David Palin, if you have questions, comments, concerns, whatever about what we were just talking about, send them to bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
Bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
And there you go. And we'll get those get those on the show. So speaking of that, Mr. David Palin.
Yes, sir.
We got some questions already.
Already? We just said mail them to bikeshopshow@gmail.com, and voila.
And voila. Questions
Viola, here they are.
Viola. All right, so the first question that we got, this is from John in the UK. Where's that?
UK?
I'm just kidding.
I know where it's not. It's not in Europe.
And John says, Dear Scotty D and Mr. David Palin. Beautiful.
Perfect.
Before we go any further, at no point in your response mention tubulars. There is no
Percent
chance.
is they don't exist, right? This is a marriage issue, I'm guessing,
There
right?
is no chance that my better half will accept more wheels,
There you go.
especially when you're a lower mid-pack vet whose aim for next year is to finish in the top 40. That's a good
place
you
to finish.
might need tubulars in the top 40.
I think so. Look around there.
Tubulars might get you to 39.
They
See,
could.
That's the thing. What difference does it make where you finish? If tubulars get you where you want to be, who cares what number that is, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
and if you
John-
want to be married, it may be tubeless.
John continues and saying it's what Bike Shop CX recommended will cut no ice.
No ice, baby.
John. So here's the thing. Hope you are impressed by my use of American vernacular and idioms. Raced,
Those were American?
I think that's what John thinks.
Okay.
That's what all the British think. Yeah.
And we nipped their language, you know.
Australians too, same way. Yeah. Raced very muddy cross on Sunday. Had Vittoria Terreno wet tubeless tires on which were great for grip.
He spelled tires wrong, but you know what we didn't mention in our little brief USA Nats cyclocross?
Yeah.
Our tires, they're not our tires, but you know, we talk a lot about Vittoria's. They were on an awful lot of bikes.
Of championship bikes.
Indeed. Yeah.
Tire which were great for grip, even given mud ranging from peanut butter to slop. However, the mud stuck like glue to the sidewalls. Even riding over a soccer, we call it football in Britain, field, which was still grassy when I was warming up off course. According to Isaac Newton, the mud should have cleared the tread and then fallen off. However, gravity was defied by the mud buildup, even when the tread was pretty much mud-free. So I'm hoping you can reach out to your friends at Vittoria and ask them what the deal is. I don't think this is Vittoria-specific, John.
No. Especially when we're talking about casings, right?
Right. Or contact a physics expert on my behalf. Questions in my own mind. Is the Terreno wet so specific it's only good for sloppy mud? Should I have sprayed the sidewalls with olive oil or silicone spray? Am I going too slow and the mud would fly off if I was averaging 300 watts? That was probably true. Not going to happen. Does this happen with all tubeless tires in mud? Is there a mud tire? Blah, 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 blah. So, John, this is conditions of the type of mud, right? As much as anything.
It's the stickitude of the mud,
the stickitude of the mud.
to use a physics term.
Yeah, this is just a freak thing of when you have that certain specific sticky mud, this can happen, right?
Yeah.
If you saw U.S. Cyclocross Nationals, you saw this on almost every single bike.
Yeah, and it's especially true when you're running on mud that was once grass. That grass tends to, and especially sometimes they'll throw straw down into it as well,
Yeah.
which we know from Egyptian times is the perfect formula
used to make
for
adobe.
making bricks.
Right.
And it sticks. The combination of the mud in the grass or the mud in the straw makes it extremely sticky. It will gum up. And this is the thing where everyone started on there. Oh, look at it all hooked up in that canty brake system.
Yeah.
You know what?
Doesn't
If there's
matter.
no canty brake there, it gets hooked up
On something
on
else.
the seat stays and in the chain
Chain
stays.
Yeah,
It-
and on the disc
it-
brakes and every
it
place.
gets stuck
when it was
everywhere.
that,
Yep.
when it's like
Yep.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
that's-
extra virgin olive oil. Well, nothing sticks to extra virgins.
Right.
But other than that, no.
Yeah,
No.
nothing. Don't spray anything on your tires to try and prevent this. None of that's going to work. If you want to seal your tires with AquaSeal or some other kind of sealant, tent sealant or whatever, that's fine.
It will probably protect it from the moisture.
but it's not going to.
But it's not going to stop the mud
happening.
from
yeah.
sticking.
So John's other thing, he says, finally, would higher pressure help? No, it's
No.
not going to help. If it's that bad, nothing's going to help.
The only thing that helps is a sunny attitude.
The other thing that helps is not riding through mud.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Better line choice, certainly. But if you have no choice and you're picking up that mud,
John,
you wallow in it. You just have to. And this is, I keep coming back to it. This is part of the joy of cyclocross.
That's right.
Just enjoy it. You know, it may mean the difference between 40th and 41st place.
Yeah.
John, just wallow in it. Enjoy it.
Exactly.
For what it's worth.
John concludes, say hi to Bill and all the best for a peaceful new year. Take care. Kind regards from the UK, John. All right, John, I hope we got that question answered. And
we nailed it.
And here's the thing. Tubulars would not matter one bit. So,
yes, they would. He would have won had he been on tubulars.
They would certainly not solve this problem.
No, they would.
For sure. So,
no.
All right, David, read the next one.
All right. So this one comes from Mike. Oh, this is why you asked me to read it, of course. It says NECX all the way. That's New England Cyclocross for those of you that are less informed. One more question on wheel building. I think
one more. This is it. This is it.
I was going to say, I think this is not the last question on wheel building. Stay tuned, Bike
Mike,
Shop.
All right, everybody. Mike has the last question. Okay.
Actually, just one more. But stay tuned, Bike Shop CX viewers, because there's going to be more wheel building and wheel building challenge.
Yeah,
we're pushing
actually,
you guys.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and Mike brought it up. We're gonna revisit in the off season now that the U.S. season is over. Obviously, we got lots more cyclocross before
Right.
Worlds, a little bit after Worlds again. But one of the things we're going to do this off season is reinvigorate the wheel build challenge.
Indeed.
Yeah. So
and
look
I
for
think
that
we're
coming
talking
this
with some
off-season.
really cool people about maybe some challenges out there and maybe some...
Oh, this is news to me.
Oh,
is
yeah.
it? Or
I don't
isn't
know.
it?
We may have.
All right, keep going. Keep
Okay.
going. Sorry.
I built up my first wheel set on your inspiration.
Wonderful.
It was a Head Belgium with SRAM 900 combo.
Beautiful.
My son got second at Ice Weasels on the wheels this past weekend, by the way, with Vittoria Dries. Another great suggestion.
Look at this. We are propelling people to podiums.
We are.
I mean, they couldn't do it without us.
Not a chance. Here are my points that I think you should discuss.
Oh, all right.
All right. By the way, Ice Weasels is a great event.
Yes.
All that stuff in New England
Absolutely.
is great. I built the wheels with 28 spokes, front and rear. I feel like I should have built the wheels with 24 front. I'm a beginner with wheel building. Besides weight, what should my decision be for spoke selection on front and back wheels? 28 on the front seemed like overkill after I finished. Well, we're going to answer them one at a time
Sure.
here. He says one more question, and it has
And then
two
he has
questions.
two questions. What?
What's up with that? Sneaking it in there, Mike. We see.
We see how you do. No. I don't know. It might be. I mean, you don't have to. You certainly don't have to build them
So
symmetrical.
the things that come into play there is going to be rider weight and
Yes.
how heavy not only the rider is, but I think in terms of how heavy the rider rides.
Correct.
Are you a
I
little
agree.
more like skilled in going around things, or are you plowing through everything?
Exactly. I mean, so there are people that ride heavy for their weight, and there are
Yep.
people that ride light for their weight, even though their weight is the same.
Right.
Many riders will take more risks, right? They'll
Correct.
try and jump more. They will try and, so you have to take all that into consideration. A 24-spoke wheel is not going to be as strong as a 28.
Correct.
That's four less spokes does not seem like a lot,
No, it's
but it is. So you have to take all that into consideration.
Yeah.
Could it, what is his weight? What is his riding style? Is he going to smash into stuff? All that is in play. I think for when you're building your first set of wheels, to try and decrease the number of things you need to think about as much as possible, I think it's good to build your first set of wheels. Just build a symmetrical wheel build, right?
Yep. And it's
Just
better
keep it
to
the same.
overbuild it, right? So that
Certainly.
chances are it's going to stay true longer.
Exactly.
It's going to not be
Exactly.
finicky.
It's a little bit easier to true with more spokes, right? You
Yeah.
got more selections of the spokes. So I think for your first build, that's fine. Could you then build your next one with 24 in the front? Yes. In fact, just go build a 24-spoke front.
Yeah.
And then you have the option. You can switch back and forth. You
Right.
don't have to build a set all the time. So, definitely an option. Build it with your son, and have the option of going either one. So,
Yeah,
there
for
you
sure.
go.
And I understand the point of overkill. It seemed like overkill after I finished. overkill how? I mean, yes, that is rotational weight, and it's going to be a little bit heavier.
But it's tiny.
But it's not
the weight of 4 spokes.
Yeah.
Is
not
tiny.
having to true those up because they're rubbing and it's crazy. So let's just
and who knows? You don't know. Maybe the fact that he had 28 spokes kept that wheel straight when he bashed into something.
That's
in that
right.
race.
Otherwise, he would have taken third.
Right.
So we're gonna take total credit for that second
and
place.
If you put 24, maybe he'd have gotten first.
No, not a chance.
I doubt
he would have bent it, and it would have been sitting in the back carrying his bike.
So go for it, Mike. Build a 24 front, and then just swap them back and forth,
and let us know.
Yeah.
Send your info to bikeshopshow@gmail.com.
That's bikeshopshow@gmail.com. All right. Number 2.
Nipples.
Second part of his one-part question.
Of his one more question. Nipples, which he puts in parentheses, be a great name for an episode. I marred the crap out of my red aluminum nipples while trying. Stripped some and replaced. Sweared quite a bit, but finally got things set.
Yep.
What are the magical Jedi tactics for using colored aluminum nipples so they look like the color you intended them to be when finishing a new wheel set? Next wheel build on the horizon.
Yeah, there's no secret. The best thing you can do is try and keep them even tension so that you don't have to have one really tight. This will come the more wheels you build.
Mm-hmm.
When you first build your first set of wheels, there's a tendency to get some really tight and some not as tight. And when you got to do that with aluminum nipples, they strip, they spin, it's just the way those things are. You get them all marred up because you're trying to tighten them so much. The secret to it is being very competent wheel builder. Not that you're not already, Mike. But you've only built one set of wheels. So that you are getting that tension wound up very precisely, very evenly, so you don't have to get any one spot really tight to balance the whole wheel. You can keep things generally at lower tensions equally, and then you build them all up to the specific tension all at once without having to get crazy in one spot.
The one thing I would add there, similar to Mike's one more question, my one thing that I'll add there, I'm sure is multi-part. One is use the 4-sided spoke wrench.
Certainly.
From
absolutely.
Park Tools, that's a one thing. Or go to Wheel Fanatic, right?
Yeah.
Splined nipples.
Oh, yeah. Great choice. I mean, you can get those. You won't mar up.
No.
They have a decent number of color choices now.
Yeah. I think red is one of
The
them. If I'm not
downside to
mistaken.
that is you need the specific spoke wrench.
Right. You can't just go into any shop and say,
Hey, can you true this for me?
Right.
But I mean, if you're building your own wheels, you probably don't need that. So that is for sure one way to do it. The 4-sided or 3-sided spoke wrench is a good suggestion. What I do is have both.
Yep.
Because the 3-sided takes longer to get on and off, right? Which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're at really low tension and you're just getting things together,
just beyond finger tight,
right?
Yeah.
Just use the 2-sided, right?
Yep.
Just because it's faster. You get all that stuff built up to it. Once you start feeling a little bit of tension on the spokes, switch over to the other one. That'll slow you down a little bit, but at that point, you're getting closer to being done anyway. So.
Right. Thank you so much for your support towards CX and cycling in general this year. P.S.
You're welcome, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks for noticing.
Awesome.
We love our family.
Yes.
Our cross family, as I like to say.
Yes.
Hashtag cross family. Thank you so much for your support. I already read that, but it's important. I'll say it again. Thank you so much for your support towards CX and cycling in general this year. P.S. After all, this wheel set is too small for my new Kona Super Jake rear triangle.
After all this. Yeah.
Okay. P.S. After all this, the wheel set is too small for my new Kona Super Jake rear triangle. The SRAM 900 hub is about 2 millimeters too small, and the chain rubs in the frame. Works fine on my other Kona Major Jake and Jake the Snake quick release, just not the through axle Super Jake. What gives?
What gives? What gives is all this stuff is none of this stuff is as specific as we think a lot of times.
Yeah. Standard in the bike industry is not standard.
Standard is kind of standard, yeah. So, I mean, have had this happen with certain other things. Have had this happen, not this specific thing, but have had rubbing situations on the Focus frames that I've worked on. I've had them on the Trek frames that I've worked on.
Right.
I've had them on almost every frame, right? When you're doing things outside the OEM, the stuff that comes on the bike, this is why when you build a bike, when all you have is a frame and you're putting things on it, right?
Oh, like a Raleigh RX 2.0.
Exactly. Stuff happens. Is way different than a shop gets a bike. If you're a brand X dealer and that bike comes in a box, they know everything fits. You put it all on, everything works beautifully. There's no issues, no problems, and off you go.
Right.
Everything goes right. You can build it in an hour. When you're building a custom bike from scratch, it takes a lot longer, right? A file is a great thing to have because there's
Although a file's not going to help him here.
Well,
it's too narrow, right?
It depends. Well, it's what's he saying? The
spacers.
The hub is too narrow, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. Without looking at it, I can't really say.
Right.
But I'm just saying, in general, you always have to watch what's going on. What I would do in the future, if you're going to build more wheels and you want to make sure they're going to go in whatever bike, before you even build up the hub, go put it in the frame.
Yeah.
Right? You can even put a rotor on it to make sure that's all going to work. Put that in the frame and see what's going on. Make sure everything looks cool.
Yeah.
So that's one way to do it. All right. Ready to move on?
I'm ready. You ready?
The next
this
one
one's
is
your
from
turn.
Andrew from Toronto. Hello, Mr. Scotty D and Mr. David Palin. I am looking to complete the wheel building challenge this winter. Most likely using the SRAM 900 hubs to Velocity Major Tom disc rims. My question for you is, excellent choice, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, we did the Belgian rims. This is also an excellent choice.
My first wheel build, not my first, but one of my first
one
wheel
of the
builds
early ones
was a set of
love Velocity.
Yeah.
So, how do I determine how many spokes to use
Michigan
per wheel?
company.
Does it vary from carbon rims to aluminum? I love the show. Keep up the great work. How do you determine that's going to be?
I would put one spoke into each hole in the rim. Some guys do like 2-to-1 or whatever. It makes it really strong.
Try and drill a few extra.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, there's no way to know this with the information given.
Right. Well, wasn't Andrew listening when we just gave our instructions to who was it there from the UK? John?
From Mike, you mean?
No, John in the
John.
UK.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right, here you go, Andrew. There's no perfect right answer for this.
Right.
I can't say 28, 32,
right,
24. You're going to have to decide that. That's part of doing the wheel build for yourself. 28 right now is kind of the standard middle ground, basic, no frills, no spills choice. If you consider yourself or whoever you're building the wheels for to be a heavier rider, then you start to consider the 32 spoke, right? That could be heavier in weight, or as we said earlier, they could just have a tendency to ride harder, be rougher on their wheels. My wife is a tiny little woman, right? And she is twice her weight, her actual weight, as far as how hard she is on wheels.
Yeah.
She just hits everything, right? And that's just the way she rides. So great. So if that's the case, then you start thinking 32. The penalty you're going to pay is, of course, the weight of the wheels goes up the more spokes you add. The strength of the wheel, though, goes up too.
And your safety goes up.
Well, you're easier to true and all that stuff for sure. And you're right. Your tension on your spokes is going to be, you can balance it better. Anyways, if you think you are a little lighter, if it's for a kid, or something like that, or a very light person, small person, then you can consider doing the 24s. For your first wheel build, I like to recommend either 28 or 32, same in front and back, just because it eliminates some other things that you have to keep in your head while you're doing it, and build up a straight up set of 28 front and rear, and go from there. Like we were just talking about in Mike's question, you can then build a front 24 if you want, right? To keep it like that and to run a 24, 28 if you want down the road for your next wheel or something like that. But just keep it simple for your first build, I think is one of the best ways to do it. No, the number of spokes per wheel is not going to vary from carbon to aluminum. Doesn't matter. That's not affecting it. In general, carbon wheels tend to be lower spoke counts because they are really light wheels. They're trying to make really light wheels. But I wouldn't recommend your first set of wheels you try and make really light, right? Keep them standard. 28 will be a very good wheel. It will be you'll be able to race on that if you want. You'll be able to train on that if you want. You just be able to do all kinds of stuff on that.
Sure.
So keep it simple and do it like that. If you do think you're heavier, though, or you are worried about it, bump it up to 32. That's no problem at all, and go from there. So, Andrew, keep us informed of how it's going.
Yeah, you can send pictures of those wheels, too.
Absolutely. BikeShopShow@gmail.com.
BikeShopShow@gmail.com.
And, let us know. Like I said, we're going to be revisiting the wheel build challenge this off season. So, probably maybe right in tune with when you're building them. So,
we know that you're up there in Toronto, so the winter goes... right through till April, May,
or June.
Yeah.
So, all right, Mr. David Palin, hit us.
All right. This comes from faithful viewer Sean. Dear cyclocross gods. Small G. Mr. DVP has touted Corona tubular tape.
Have you?
What is his application technique? The all-knowing Mr. Leonard Zinn has described his technique online with an emphasis on temperature, pressure, and time. And he gives us a link to Leonard Zinn's information. Any experience with Effecto Eau de Corona tubular base tape prep solution? So, real quickly, I am a big fan of the ease of application of the Corona Mariposa Effetto tape. I'm a big fan of the ease of removal of the tape when it's time to take the tires off and remount another set of tires. I am a big fan of using them for gravel road and dirt road riding and racing if you are going to put on tubulars. My experience, and this is what we had talked about, right? We talked about I was going to give it a try and go for a season with them. My experience in cyclocross was not as positive.
Had some issues.
Yeah, I rolled one.
So not huge fans of this.
No.
As viewer Sean said.
Right.
I don't love it as a choice for gravel grinding because I don't know how you have a spare. So that worries me.
Yeah.
My thing, I would say, learn how to glue tires. We know that glue works.
Yeah.
Have not had great success. Mr. David Palin did not have the greatest success with that tape. Use it a couple times, not just one time.
No.
So
and stuff works its way under it. And
yep. So
granted, that bike, my Colnago, had what did we determine?
Tens of thousands of miles on it. 6,000 this year on that.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, we're talking a high mileage bike for sure.
So yeah, I had a lot of experience with that. It lasted well while it lasted, but I don't know that it would be my first choice.
Yeah. Learn how to glue tires, everybody. Learn how to glue tires.
Similar to you guys out there, our viewers, you're wheel builders now. You can do that. You can glue tires.
If you're a wheel builder, you can be a wheel tire gluer.
Of course you can. We have faith in you.
Next to building a wheel, gluing a tire is a piece of cake.
Indeed. That's it. For sure. Also, I've been riding Vittoria Terreno Dry and Mixed Tubeless this year to great success. Have you ridden them to second place at Ice Weasels? I bought some tubular mix and wet for next year for my 2 new sets of head Belgium tubulars I built up. I'm now concerned after listening to a recent podcast where Hyde wasn't happy with the wet's performance. Should I ditch the Vittoria tubulars and grab some challenge?
Well, that was answered this weekend, right?
I was going to mention that he did okay with those Vittoria Terreno wets.
Several U.S. cyclocross championships won on Vittoria Terreno wets. So I think we've settled that.
There you go. And there's your answer, faithful viewer
Sean. Don't worry about it, especially if you already have them. don't go by what other people's experience necessarily were, especially if you've already got them.
Unless ours. Go by ours. Do what we tell you.
Go ride on those things and see what you think, man.
Yeah.
You might. I mean, they might hook up. Obviously, they're hooking up fine now, right? They did fine in this mud. Is there a condition where they don't perform as well as another tire? Probably, but that other tire also has a condition where it doesn't perform as well as this tire. For every tire that's made, there's going to be one set of specific conditions that are not its best. Right? No matter what tire you glue on there. So, I mean, there's been times when I've been at nationals when people are like, the Limuses suck. They won't hook up in anything. Blah, 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 blah. And that's just what that specific thing or that specific angle or that specific, amount of wetness and mud wasn't ideal for them. So it's impossible really to predict in general. Obviously, we know the Vittoria Terreno wets work now. Right?
Yeah,
for sure.
There's no question about it.
Yeah. I mean, so. All right. We have 2 more questions. I'm going to read the next one. This is long. How come I'm getting all these long questions, Mr. David Penn?
I don't know. You put them in the order and tell me to read when I read. So I just thought you didn't trust me.
This is from Andy. It just says Andy on the coast.
I think that's Andy Schleck. Full Schleck coffee.
All right. We'll see how much of this I get through. Greetings from the central Oregon coast, where it's 63 degrees every day all summer. Rain, shine, wind, calm, clear, fog, doesn't matter. My name is Andy, a lifetime bike lover and a has-been BMX racer from the 80s. I've been listening to the show for 6 or 7 months on my dog walks and my gravel rides and can't get enough. Can't get enough. Your tubeless shows and your disc brake betting show came out with perfect timing for me when my new wheels and wheel accessories for my gravel bike were showing up. I acquired some Stan's no-tube grails, Stan's stems and sealant, 40mm wide Kenda Flint Ridge Pros for added sidewall protection, the new R7000 series Shimano 105 cassette. He's running us through every part on his bike. They don't mess around in small gravel bike there, blah, blah, blah. I've got to say that the tubeless setup was so dang easy.
It is.
This is what I'm saying.
When we talked about tubeless back in our bike shop show days.
Yeah.
And it wasn't quite so straightforward back then. You had to finagle stuff and use the right stuff and only this. And
yeah, because
now,
a lot of times back then people were just putting tubeless stuff together now we've got like tubeless systems, especially the Stand system. I just think the Stand system works great.
It is.
I don't know why you would screw around using mismatched stuff and electric tape and your Gorilla tape and all that stuff when just the Stand stuff works so great. Like you said, no mess. I mean, I've seated stuff on stands with a pump.
Yeah.
I've seen a compressor sometimes.
Believe this or not, Bike Shop Show viewers, or Bike Shop CX viewers, I've seen Scotty D open up a valve and just put it up to his mouth and inflate and seat
and get a tubeless
Stand tubeless tire.
Yeah. You
Believe it or not.
You can't do it?
I cannot do it. I've got little lungs. I'm just a little guy. It's not easy being little.
All right.
Go ahead.
Andy continues, no fuss, no mess. My air compressor and floor pump seated both wheels first try. I'd almost say it was a pleasure. Wow.
Whoa.
It's certainly a pleasure riding the Cat 3 gravel climbs back there with 30 to 35 PSI. All my traction issues are gone. But my question is about my new brake setup.
Then why are we talking all about his wheels
Andy,
and tires? You're killing us, Andy.
No, that was all interesting stuff, and I'm glad we got to talk about it. My new brake set. So, after assembly on my first test ride, of course, I took the opportunity to seat the new pads and rotors. I have the pleasure of living on a street with a nice medium-pitched hill that you can ride for a good half mile. Beautiful. That's
you don't
awesome.
even have to turn around, climb back up after each
that
one.
Is awesome. From the top of the neighborhood all the way down to the harbor in my little fishing/whale watching town. So it was perfect for getting a good 15 to 20 repetitions of braking down to walking speed. 1 lap on the front and up again for another lap on the rear. Although my front brake was still howling at the end of bedding, it didn't make any noise on the 3 or 4 rides I've done since. I think I should have been putting more weight and more steady weight on the front fork during the bedding process. Could be, maybe.
Yeah.
Hard to say, but it sounds like it's working now, so you're probably all good. My old brakes were Pro Max 3. Andy likes
He likes parts.
likes parts.
Yeah.
Andy's a part guy.
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
Part number guy, too.
My old brakes were ProMax 300Rs, OEMs off my old Mazzi CXGR. The calipers were dangerously crappy, but the rotor seemed to be great. Even though I've got nearly 900 miles on my old rotors, I can still barely notice the start of a groove from wear. Next time I go for a ride that has as much or more highway than it does gravel, I'm going to want to put my old wheels with my 35s back on. So my question is, didn't he say my question is about...
I think it was about a half hour ago.
Should I be...
Our viewers, they love our long shows and they complain about our long shows, and then they give us the long letters. We love our viewers.
So my question is, Andy, we're just having fun with you, dude. My question is...
With you, Andy.
Should I be worried about my old rotors on my old wheels screwing up the surface on my new brake pads that were bedded in on new and different rotors?
He doesn't say what part number those old different rotors were.
Thanks a lot for all your hard work and the smiles you put on my face. Andy on the coast. So
I'm going to just put it out here. We're going to call him Ishmael.
Okay, here's the deal. I would check my rotor thickness. Don't just assume that the rotor is not worn out because there's no groove, right? Check your overall rotor thickness. You might be surprised. Depending on what manufacturer made those rotors, that's one of the few numbers he didn't give us. Right? There's going to be a manufacturer spec for how thick those rotors need to be. There'll be a minimum thickness. Check that.
Right.
All right. Should you be concerned? It depends. If those rotors are still good, still have life, you're probably okay doing that. If they've been bedded in well before and all the little spots on them are filled with brake pad material. Here's the thing. In races, we swap bikes with different wheels with different rotors all the time.
Right.
And it's for a 1 hour race. We don't care about this as much. You can care about this more on your, at home, depending on if you're going to be swapping wheels a lot.
Right.
You could certainly, disc brake pads are so easy to swap. You could certainly have a pair of pads for each set of wheels.
Yep.
And swap those in.
And it becomes an issue, if I'm not mistaken, if we're talking organic versus inorganic.
Versus stintered. For sure, organic are going to wear more, and wear into a specific rotor a little bit quicker. There's not a great answer. Think about it. When you wear out a set of brake pads,
Yes.
you're putting a brand new set of pads
On an old rotor.
anyways,
Right.
right? So you're probably going to be fine. If you're really worried about it, I would run 2 sets of pads for sure,
Right.
depending on the rotors that you
There's people out there, believe this or not,
Yeah.
Scotty D,
Yeah.
that are still running canty brakes. They don't worry about this kind of stuff.
Right. It just doesn't have to even be on their radar.
No.
Yeah, no. I swap wheels on my bikes all the time and don't change the pads. I just leave the pads on.
Yeah.
I understand. I pay, but I'm very in tune with what my braking is, right? If I notice any little qualms or anything about my braking, I'm going to be checking it out right away and changing pads or whatever. So brake pads are one of those things you can't really have too many of. Have a stock of brake pads.
Yeah.
Having a stock of brake pads for your disc brakes is not a bad idea.
No, and we talk a lot about racing on this show. We talk about gravel to some extent, but you're going to show up someplace. Back in the old days, you'd show up, you'd go on a ride with somebody, and you'd get a flat. Everybody has a 700C2.
Right.
Here, even if somebody else has brake pads and something happens, chances are they're not going to be the right brake pads for you. There's enough different models.
Yep.
Go out there. You know your numbers. Write down the number. Memorize the number, which model brake pad you have, and keep a bunch in stock.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always a good idea. I have a ton that I keep.
Would not be a bad thing to get a little tic-tac case and put some in. Sure. And throw that in your tool bag under your saddle.
If you're going out on some crazy long gravel ride,
where stopping is important. If you're doing a 4-mile descent to the ocean.
All right, Mr. David Palin.
Yes,
let's
sir.
finish us off with the last question.
Let's do just that. And that brings us to greetings, Scotty D and Mr. David P. A faithful viewer with a quickie question. It's even non-technical.
Non-technical.
Who is the music by at the start of the show? I hear Philly Ron and the track being called Bijou, but I can't find it. In which case, I checked my bottom bracket, as that is where most problems come from. Alternatively, I'm not hearing you correctly. Okay, I'm a European, even if I did suffer living in Boston, and it's cold, endless winters for a couple of years, so maybe it's my hearing that's off. So, please, can you spell it out sometime at the start of the show, or stick a link in the show notes? Thank you kindly. Keep up the great work. Get CXE. Cross his boss. Road is coming. Gravel never leaves. JJ.
And JJ is right. It's he has misspelled the name and title. So I will put that link in the show notes for this show.
Spell it out for us. No.
It's BJU.
BJU.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of... It's like missing some vowels here.
Yeah.
It's poor guy who grew up very, very poor, couldn't afford to buy a vowel.
And it's Philly Run, R-U-N.
There
Philly
you go.
Run. So there you go.
Oh.
But I'll put a link to that show in the show notes on the Free Music Archive. So there you go.
Cool.
One
Thanks,
last
JJ.
thing.
Yeah.
That was our last question. But before we go, Mr. David Palin, do you remember Chris, who built the bike wash station?
I do.
So Chris has sent us a bunch of pictures
Of his next creation?
other things that he has built out of wood for
Okay.
his bike stuff.
Yeah.
So check out some of this stuff, Mr. David Palin. Look
I'm
at this.
looking now.
So he has got a headset spacer made out of wood. This would be for like when you're packing your bike, say,
Right,
and
yeah.
you take the stem off, and you're going to put your bike in a bike bag, and
Yeah.
instead of using that cardboard thing that we all use,
Right.
he's built. Look at that thing, beautiful wood
Wood-turned.
spacer
Yeah.
to hold.
Is that rosewood?
I don't. Could be. Looks like it. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
Look at his. He has got a Park T hex wrench holder that attached to the side of his workbench. Look at that thing. Beautiful holes drilled in.
Yeah.
He's got a wheel width block.
That's what I'm looking at. You know that I'm looking
What
at
I
that.
want to know, here's the thing.
Is he an official?
Here's what I want to know, Chris. Does that thing change thickness? Does it swell
In the cold, wet? Yeah.
I'm curious. I don't know. Maybe there's a way you can make wood to the
If
point
it's
where it
maple
doesn't.
or some very hardwood versus some hygroscopic.
And then you treat it with something. Does it really actually not swell that much
Yeah.
enough to make a difference? So I'm just curious about that. So anyways, he sent us all this stuff of other things that he'd made out
What's
of
that on the
wood.
bottom right?
That's the wheel block set on a wheel.
Oh.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Hey, I wasn't in the starting gates for much of CX Nats this year. Were you there?
In the starting gates.
Yeah, where
to watch the starts of the race.
To watch the staging, to see them as they were putting the wheel blocks on. Were there any issues there?
Yeah. No.
Nothing.
No, but they check. I mean, they're.
I knew they were
going
going to check. I just didn't know if they
Yeah,
because we remember that there were some issues at Indy that looked like they may have played themselves out.
With. Oh,
There was more than one bike that came off the ground when they lifted the block.
Well, they usually are okay with that. Like if your bike comes up off the ground, as long as without shaking it or anything, if it slowly slides back out of the block, they'll let that go.
There was one that still had the rider on it,
Had
and
the
they
rider
lifted it
on it,
right
and they
up off
lifted
the
the
ground.
rider.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to be let go.
Right, yeah.
But it's usually a problem with tubeless because you're going to vary the width based on the rim thickness and all that stuff. So there can be some issues there. But one of the things that probably kept that from happening is how low a pressure.
Yeah, people were running 11.5 pounds of
Katie
pressure.
Compton wrote 11.5. What?
Yeah.
That
Somebody,
is
I'm trying to remember
crazy.
who it was. Somebody finished not realizing they had a flat.
I totally believe
That is true. No, that's a true story.
So it could just be that people were riding, even in their tubeless, were riding such low pressures that it didn't push that limit like sometimes it does in
Right.
other races. I don't know. But I didn't see anyone have any issues. I was at most of the starts for the elites on Sunday. So there you go.
There you go.
All right, Mr. David Palin, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it?
If you just show up at a race, come to a race here in Michigan in the Midwest. I'm at more and more of the OVCX now, and in the Cap City stuff. Going to be going to NEOCX next year. Okay, you can't all do that. I get it. he can hit me up on the Instagram at Mr. David Palin and on the Twitter at Mr. David Palin.
Boy, those are the same.
Yeah.
And if you want to get a hold of me, Scott Diedenbach, check me out at Bike Shop CX on Twitter and
What if
at
it's
Bike Shop CX on Instagram.
What if it's vinyl things I'm interested in?
If it's vinyl, non-bike related, you can check me out on Instagram at Scott Not Bikes.
Scott Not Bikes.
And you'll get a lot of my vinyl posting.
At least one a day where we see what you're listening to.
But a lot of people like that I can tell are cyclists
Yeah.
follow that account too because they're into vinyl or music or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Yeah. Drop me a line over
We
there.
stopped for vinyl on our way to
We did. We stopped in
Louisville,
Fort
or
Wayne.
Drewville, yeah.
We drove down through Fort Wayne to get there, and I bought a few albums from the independently owned record store that we love to support all over any place I go and all my travels. And those
That was a great trip too.
Yeah, that Iggy Pop album that I got played really nice.
Did it? We were a little bit concerned
A little bit concerned. It was a little rough.
on the outside.
He only charged me $20.
It's kind of like Iggy Pop, right? A little bit rough on the outside.
That's for sure. So, all right, Mr. Dave Palin, I will. This is probably going to be the last show of the year.
So happy holidays to those
Happy
that
New
believe
Year to
and
everybody.
do all
Yep.
those things.
Yep. And we will be back at you sometime in January. We'll get 2 shows in January. How soon after New Year we do a new show we don't know yet.
We'll be there though.
It's going to depend, but we will be there. And get our at least our 2 shows in for January. And Mr. Dave Palin, I will see you then. Talk to you then.
I'll see you out on the road.
Later. All right, and that is the show for this week. I hope everybody dug it. Have a happy holidays for everyone. Have a great new year. We'll see you in 2019. We got Worlds coming up. It's weird to have U.S. Nationals done already before the holidays. Got a lot of good riders. The one thing it's done is what it was intended. Got a lot of good riders over in Europe right now. A lot of them left right after Nationals. So that's going to be really interesting and exciting for the rest of the cyclocross year. We got a few things planned for next year to see how, change things up a little bit, add a little bit of things, add some things to the show that we hope you like. As always, thank you to our sponsors. TNR Tape, just amazing. Just love being a part of what those guys are doing. Grimpeur Brothers Coffee. Get on over to GrimpeurBrothers.com. Get some full schleck. Get some Hello Cyclocross friends. That's just great coffee. You won't be disappointed. And Wide Angle Podium. Get over to wideanglepodium.com and become a member. Support all the shows that you love. We really, really appreciate it. All right, it is not very cold out right now, so I hope everyone is getting out there and riding. If you are getting out there and riding, as always, be careful out there, everybody. And just as important, take care of each other out there. And until next time, the bike shop is closed.